15 years, the damage that load shedding has brought to this economy has been incalculable.
The death toll from the recent floods in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 49.
After a fairly subdued night, the Knysna fires have begun to grow again.
We begin tonight with a nation already on edge in the coronavirus pandemic as protests turn violent.
London's burning and no one seems able to bring it under control.
You're listening to Off-Grid Survival, South Africa's first prepper podcast. We are your hosts, Brett
and Ben.
Good afternoon. This is episode is going to be a bit of a brief introduction from myself, Brett, as well as my buddy Ben, about who we are and what we are hoping to get out of this podcast. My name is Brett. I have over 10 years experience in the outdoor retail industry from back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I'm currently a manager in one of South Africa's large retail food chains. I've been prepping since I was a teenager in some form or another. As a kid, I had no idea what prepping was as such. But as a scout, I lived by the scout motto of be prepared. So even though I didn't know what it was called, I always had a go bag ready just in case. In the late 20-teens, my wife and I moved from the city to the garden route to get away from the rising crime and the general dysfunction of city life. We settled in a lovely small town and are now part of the local community. Before we moved down here, we had both been doing Krav Maga for about 3 years, and through one of our instructors, I learned more about preparedness as well as concepts like grey man and situational awareness. I think that's enough about myself. I'm now going to hand over to Ben. Ben, a bit about yourself, dude.
Hi, my name is Ben. I was born and raised in the Transkei, and growing up without being able to rely on Transkei or South African governments, we had to be prepared and plan ahead to go shopping in East London twice a month. And just growing up being more self-sufficient, I didn't have any access to things like scouts, but we did live be prepared because you were your own first responder.
So pretty different to my situation where I grew up in one of the big cities in South Africa. You grew up, where I'm gathering, in more of a rural environment?
Yeah, it's very rural, and we spent every holiday down at the sea. So gathering food, fishing, gathering seafood, living off the land, as it were.
So basically what we got here is the city boy and the country boy. Am I right?
Yeah, the country boy didn't do Krav Maga though.
Yeah, we all got to learn self-defense at some point.
So Brett, what made you think of doing a South African specific survival podcast?
Once we moved down to the garden route, I started looking into doing food preps. Started getting some extra cans and the usual beginner stuff. And then in 2020, when lockdown hit and we were all stuck at home, I spent a lot of time online and I went down some pretty serious YouTube rabbit holes and found some amazing information. The prepper community online is huge, and my main gripe was that all the information that I was coming across was Northern Hemisphere based, specifically USA and Canada. There was some stuff from other countries as well, but the main guys are definitely from the States and from Canada. And we live in South Africa. We don't live in a cold weather climate like Canada, for instance. We don't have to worry about getting snowed in or our pipes freezing. Yeah, it gets cold in cities like Bloemfontein in winter, and Joburg occasionally has a bit of snow. But generally, South Africa is a very temperate climate, and our situation in South Africa is very different to, I think, any other country in the world. We literally have something called strike season, where the unions get together at the same time every year and they start with their civil unrest because they want, whether it's higher wages or just to cause a nuisance. We have political factions that mayors are getting shot because some guy didn't like what he said, or the next guy wants to be the next mayor, so get rid of the guy that's there at the moment. South Africa is a very different place to any first world country, really.
Don't forget the load shedding. We've just been approved for stage 16.
Load shedding, yes. No, that load shedding is a nightmare that South Africans have been living with for, I think it's going on 15 years now. any South African that isn't a prepper by now, I'm actually quite surprised, because if you don't have solar, you've at least got a battery backup and lights, a power pack to charge your phone. So you're already starting to prep. And that's what I want to talk about with this podcast. I want to talk about South African situations, whether it's going out and going hunting a blessed book, or whether it is what's the best solar panel to get for your house, or what's the best dehydrator, what's the coolest knife on the market at the moment, and what local businesses can we support as South Africans that are helping us in our preps. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Off-Grid Survival. For more info and updates, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Off-Grid Survival ZA. That's it for now. We will see you next time. And always remember, be prepared.